cybersecurity. And look, this isn't some story about hackers and hoodies, okay? It's the real story of a massive, incredibly complex ecosystem. It's about a hidden war that's being fought every single second for control of our digital lives. So let's dive in. Let's explore this invisible world and the people who defend it.
You know, this quote it really nails it. We're talking about an invisible shield that protects our banks, our power grids, our personal data, the entire global economy. I mean, think about it. Every single time you buy something online, send an email, stream a show, you're putting your trust in this invisible system to work perfectly, silently, right there in the background.
And the stakes? Oh, they could not be higher. $10 trillion. That's the projected annual cost of cybercrime by 2025. Now, to put that number into perspective, if cybercrime were a country, it would have the third largest economy in the world. The third. Only the US and China would be bigger. That is the sheer scale of the threat we're all up against. It's not just some technical problem, it's a global economic force.
But, and this is a huge but, with every great challenge comes an even greater opportunity. So while the threat is growing like crazy, so is the demand for defenders. Right now, as we speak, there's a global shortage of 3 to 4 million cybersecurity professionals. The reason's actually pretty simple. Every company is now a tech company, which means, you guessed it, every company is a target. This isn't some niche field anymore. It's a fundamental requirement for just doing business in the modern world. Okay, so how do we even begin to wrap our heads around defending against a threat that's this big, this sophisticated? Well, it turns out the entire field, with all its mind-bending complexity, can actually be boiled down to a really simple but powerful mental model. It's a framework built on 4 fundamental questions that every single security pro uses to frame every problem they face. And this is it, the root model. This is the key to everything. Let's just break it down real quick. First, what are we protecting? These are our assets, right? The critical data, the servers, the financial info, it's the prize. Next up, from whom? These are the threat actors. Could be sophisticated nation-states, organized crime, or even just a bored teenager. They're the ones trying to get the prize. Then, how can it break? This is all about vulnerabilities. A bug in the code, a server that hasn't been patched, a weak password, a phishing email someone clicked, that's the opening they're looking for. And finally, the most important question of all, what do we do about it? This is where controls come in. The firewalls, the encryption, the security policies, all this stuff that makes up our defense.
In that root model, it naturally leads us to this, the security life cycle. Think of this as the operational heartbeat of any security program. First, you try to prevent. These are your proactive controls, your strong walls, designed to stop attacks before they even start. But look, no defense is perfect, so when an attack inevitably gets through, you have to detect it, and you have to do it fast. Once you've detected it, you gotta respond. Isolate the threat, contain the damage, and get the attacker out of your network. Then, you recover your systems, get things back to normal. And watching over this entire process, that's governance. It sets the rules and the strategy for everything else. This isn't a one-and-done thing. It's a continuous, dynamic loop of defense.
Okay, so we've got the mental model and we've got the operational cycle. Now let's see how it all gets put into practice. The best way to think about a real-world security program is like a fortress, but it's a fortress built with multiple concentric layers of defense. See, no single wall is perfect, so you build many, and each one has its own specialized job. And at the very heart of this fortress, there's this constant dynamic battle going on.
And that battle is fought between 2 opposing yet totally complementary forces. On one side, you've got the blue team. These are the defenders, the soldiers on the wall, operating the controls, monitoring for threats 24/7. Their whole job is vigilance. On the other side, you've got the red team. These are the ethical attackers you actually hire to break your own systems. They think like the enemy. They use the same tools, the same techniques to find your weaknesses before the real bad guys do. And here's the crucial point. You can't build a strong defense if you don't understand how to attack. The red team makes the blue team stronger. It's that simple.
So, this brings us to the specialized units that actually make up our fortress. Think of it from the top down. At the very highest level, you have GRC. That's governance, risk, and compliance. They set the strategy, the why behind everything. Below them, you've got security architecture. They design the actual blueprints for the entire fortress. Then you have your frontline troops we just talked about, the blue team defending and the red team testing. And as you go deeper, you get these highly specialized teams protecting the technology itself. Application security for the code, infrastructure security for the servers and networks, and finally, data security, which protects the crown jewels, the information at the very core of the business. Every layer is a critical specialty. So why are all these layers so incredibly important? Well, because in cybersecurity, you have to operate under one core assumption. Failure is going to happen. It's inevitable.
A layer will fail. A control will be bypassed. The strength of the system isn't in any single layer being perfect, but in how all the layers support each other when one of them, inevitably, breaks.
And this table just shows that cascade of failure perfectly. Let's just walk through it. Look at that first row. If you don't have GRCs setting the rules, your whole security program just descends into chaos and massive legal risk. Now, what about the blue team? Without them actively watching the network, breaches happen silently. You might not even know you've been hacked for months. Without a red team, you're just flying blind, completely unaware of your own critical weaknesses. And look at that last one. IAM, Identity and Access Management. This is what controls who can access what. If that fails, it's game over. An attacker can just walk right in the digital front door and make themselves an administrator. Every single layer is absolutely critical.
All right, we've seen the scale of the problem, we've seen the mental models, and we've seen the structure of the defense. Now, let's make this personal. With a shortage of millions of professionals, the question isn't just how do we defend, it's where do you fit in? This industry needs people from all kinds of backgrounds and skill sets, from creative problem solvers to meticulous analysts.
So let's start with the foundations. Are you the kind of person who just loves setting up routers, understanding how data flows across the internet, designing how computers talk to each other? Do you see the network not just as a utility, but as this complex, fascinating system to be built and secured? If that sounds like you, then yeah, network security is a natural fit. You'd be on the front lines, managing firewalls, segmenting networks to contain threats, securing the fundamental pathways that all our digital information travels on. You'd basically be a guardian of the digital highways. Or hey, maybe you're a builder of a different kind. Maybe you love writing code, creating applications, and you get a genuine thrill from finding that one tiny flaw, that one bug in a million lines of logic that could bring the whole thing crashing down. You enjoy both creating and deconstructing software.
You know, that single passion points to two very exciting and very different paths. On the defensive side, you could go into application security, working with developers to build secure software from the ground up. Or on the offensive side, you could become an exploit developer, a super specialized red team role where your job is to find those bugs and weaponize them so you can teach the defenders how to stop them.
But what if you aren't a coder or a network engineer? What if you just have a really keen analytical mind? You're great at looking at massive amounts of information, terabytes of logs, thousands of alerts, and finding that one signal hidden in all the noise. You can spot the subtle pattern that everyone else just missed.
Well, those analytical skills are the absolute lifeblood of the Modern Security Operations Center, or SOC. As a SOC analyst, you'd be a digital detective. You'd see an alert pop up, and it would be your job to investigate it, figure out if it's real, and coordinate the response. Or you could work in threat intelligence, researching bad guys across the globe to understand their motives and methods before they even get a chance to attack.
At the end of the day, our entire civilization is being rebuilt on a foundation of code and data. It is the most complex and critical machine humanity has ever created, and it needs defenders. It needs architects and builders, hunters and analysts, strategists and cryptographers. The battlefield is digital, the stakes are very, very real, and the need is urgent. So the only question left is, which layer will you defend?